In the stillness before thought, there exists a pulse, a silent heartbeat between creation and dissolution. It is the rhythm that gives birth to light and its shadow, to sound and its echo, to love and its loss. This pulse is the secret language of the cosmos, the Hermetic Principle of Polarity. The ancients spoke of it in whispers. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. To them, this was not mere poetry, but the architecture of reality itself. For within every flame there is cold, within every breath there is death, and within every truth, the seed of its opposite. Opposites are not enemies. They are reflections in the mirror of the one. Like two wings of a single bird, they exist to keep balance in flight. The mind, however, divided by perception, sees difference where only degree exists. It says, this is light, and that is dark, forgetting that dawn and dusk are woven from the same thread of the sun. Imagine the universe as a vast pendulum. It swings from one pole to another, life to death, rise to fall, expansion to contraction. Yet the axis, the invisible center that never moves, remains untouched. That unmoving axis is consciousness itself, the witness beyond the swing. To understand polarity is to realize that conflict is illusion. Every force, no matter how opposite it seems, serves the same eternal motion toward harmony. Hot and cold are not separate entities, but varying vibrations of one energy. Good and evil, too, are not cosmic rivals, but differing densities of light. When we resist one pole, we strengthen its hold. But when we see both as aspects of the same current, we begin to rise above them, to find peace in paradox. This is the Hermetic art, not to destroy duality, but to stand in its center, where both truths dissolve into unity. So the wise do not chase the light nor flee the shadow. They rest at the axis, knowing that both serve the idiosim, the one. For in the end, there are no opposites, only the great pulse of the infinite, breathing itself into form, and back again into silence. Long before science measured vibration or mapped the atom, the sages of ancient Egypt, spoke of a hidden symmetry that moved all things. In the halls of Thoth, the scribe of the gods, this secret was carved into emerald stone. As above, so below. As within, so without. Thoth, known to the Greeks as Hermes Trismegistus, was said to bridge the mortal and the divine, translating cosmic intelligence into human understanding. His teachings revealed that polarity is not merely a concept, but the mechanism through which the universe breathes. Every creation is born through contrast. Every manifestation is the meeting of two currents, spirit and matter, masculine and feminine, order and chaos, forever dancing in divine tension. Millennia later, our scientists began to glimpse the same mystery through a different lens. In the quantum field, particles flicker between existence and absence, like the inhale and exhale of the cosmos. Light behaves as both wave and particle, two contradictory states coexisting in one truth. The observer, through attention alone, collapses this polarity into form. Is this not the same secret Thoth whispered? That the universe is mental, that consciousness shapes reality. The Hermetic Principle of Polarity and the Quantum Principle of Complementarity are twin languages describing one timeless pattern. What the mystic perceived through vision, the scientist now confirms through observation. Reality is woven of opposing tendencies, forever seeking harmony. When we gaze into the night sky, we are witnessing the eternal marriage of opposites. Dark matter embracing radiant light, emptiness cradling being. The ancients painted this as the Eye of Ra. The physicists describe it as space-time curvature. Both point to one truth. Duality is the canvas upon which unity paints its infinite forms. And so, the temple and the laboratory speak in Unjit, Izan, that the mystery of creation is not found in choosing sides, but in perceiving the wholeness beneath polarity. To walk the Hermetic path is to remember what both science and spirit agree upon. The universe is one consciousness, dreaming itself in two mirrors. The cosmos is not the only place where polarity dances. It moves quietly within us, between every heartbeat, every thought, every breath we take. The same law that shapes galaxies governs the unseen tides of the human mind. Within each of us, light and shadow are forever intertwined. Joy and sorrow, love and fear, creation and destruction. All are threads in the same tapestry of consciousness. We long for one and flee from the other, yet both are born from the same source. To deny the shadow is to deny half of what makes us whole. The Hermetic masters taught that the mind itself is dual in nature. It mirrors the heavens, higher and lower, conscious and subconscious, spirit and matter. Between them flows the current of perception, the bridge of awareness. When we drift into emotional extremes, we are simply moving along that bridge, sliding from one pole to the other. Modern psychology echoes this wisdom. Carl Jung called it the shadow self, the unseen reservoir of our denied impulses and forgotten desires. He knew that to become whole, one must meet this shadow, not as an enemy, but as an old companion waiting to be embraced. What the Hermetists called transmutation, Jung called integration. Every emotion carries its opposite. Within anger hides wounded tenderness. Within fear, the seed of courage. Within grief, the echo of love. The alchemist's task is not to banish one pole, but to transform its vibration, to raise it along the same scale until darkness turns to light. When we observe our own mind without judgment, we step into the still axis that lies beyond the swing. There, we discover that opposites are not in conflict. They are in conversation. Each teaches the meaning of the other. To master the principle of polarity within is to end the war between what is and what should be. It is to realize that the light grows brighter because of the shadow that defines it. And when both are seen as sacred, as two expressions of the same divine pulse, the soul begins to rest in harmony. For the universe, after all, is not divided. It simply wears two faces, and both belong to you. Everything in existence is energy, vibrating, oscillating, alive. The Hermetic masters knew this long before the first physicist spoke of frequency or wavelength. They taught that polarity is not a wall dividing opposites, but a bridge of vibration that connects them. Every contrast we perceive, from heat to cold, love to hate, peace to rage, is simply a difference in rate, a shift along one continuous spectrum. Imagine a beam of light. At one end burns red, at the other violet. Yet between them flows every color we know. The colors are not separate lights. They are one light, expressed at different frequencies. So too are our emotions, our thoughts, and even our states of consciousness. When we say something is high or low, positive or negative, we are speaking of its vibration, the level at which energy moves. The Hermetic Principle of Polarity reminds us that to change a thing, we do not destroy it. We shift its vibration along the same axis. Fear can be elevated into awareness. Anger can be lifted into passion. Despair can rise through transmutation into compassion. Modern science whispers the same truth through its own language. In thermodynamics, hot and cold are not different substances but different motions of the same particles. In electromagnetism, positive and negative charges dance in perfect symmetry. The same electricity that shocks can also illuminate, depending on how it flows. To the awakened mind, polarity is not a prison. It is a ladder. Each rung represents a finer vibration, a subtler expression of the same force. The mystic climbs this ladder through consciousness, transforming the lower into the higher, not by denial, but by resonance. When we begin to see all states as degrees of one energy, judgment dissolves. The so-called negative becomes raw potential, awaiting refinement. The positive becomes guidance, inviting bent, lance. Every vibration serves the unfolding of awareness. And when awareness rises high enough, even the ladder disappears. The poles collapse into one, the silence from which all frequencies emerge. There, in that still field beyond movement, the Hermetic truth reveals itself. There is no low or high, only the one energy, vibrating itself into infinite forms of experience. Every force in nature moves in rhythm. The tide flows and retreats. The planets swing around their suns. The breath enters and departs. This endless motion, this divine oscillation, is the pulse of polarity in action. The Hermetic masters called it the law of rhythm, the companion to the principle of polarity. Together they describe the pendulum of the universe, an eternal swing between opposites that ensures balance in all creation. Nothing stands still. All things rise and fall, advance and recede, bloom and fade. To the untrained mind, these cycles appear as chaos, fortune and loss, joy and grief, creation and decay. But the wise recognize a hidden equilibrium at play. Every downward swing prepares the next ascent. Every winter conceals the seed of spring. The pendulum's motion is not punishment, but harmony restoring itself. The same principle governs our inner life. Emotions, thoughts, and circumstances all move through their own tides. When we resist one end of the swing, clinging to pleasure or fleeing from pain, we give rhythm power over us. But when we stand at the still point within, observing the motion without attachment, we begin to transcend the pendulum. In that centered awareness, the rise and fall lose their sting. We realize that the pendulum is not our enemy, but our teacher, showing us that balance is not found at the extremes, but at the axis that never moves. Even the universe breathes by this law. Stars are born from collapse. Galaxies expand and contract. Entire epochs inhale and exhale through cosmic rhythm. Life itself is this grand swing, the pulse of eternity wearing time as a veil. So let the pendulum move. Let the heart rise and fall with grace. For the rhythm of polarity does not imprison the awakened soul. It carries it, like a wave returning again and again to the same vast ocean. Look closely at the world around you, and you will see yourself reflected everywhere. In the dance of day and night, in the ebb and flow of the sea, in the inhale and exhale of your own breath. The universe is mirroring its own consciousness through you. The Hermetic axiom declares, as above, so below, as within, so without. Nowhere does this truth shine brighter than through the principle of polarity. For every division in the cosmos has its echo in the human soul. The macrocosm and the microcosm are not separate worlds. They are two mirrors facing each other, endlessly reflecting the same infinite light. The ancients understood this reflection through the sacred union of masculine and feminine energies, the active and the receptive, the radiating and the embracing. One is the current, the other the vessel. Neither can exist without the other, and both live within every being, regardless of form. To awaken spiritually is to feel this inner marriage, to realize that both forces are the pulse of one divine heart. When we look outward and see conflict, it is because the inner mirrors are clouded. What we resist in others reveals the polarity we have yet to embrace within ourselves. The outer world simply reflects the state of our inner alignment. Every judgment is a forgotten reflection of the self. Through awareness, these reflections become sacred teachers. When we witness light and shadow as equal truths of one mirror, duality softens. The war between opposites begins to dissolve, revealing a deeper symmetry, that all things are seeking reunion with their own reflection. The universe, then, is a temple of mirrors, each soul a facet of the same crystal consciousness. To look deeply into another is to gaze into the face of the infinite. And when we finally recognize that every reflection, every polarity, every mirror leads back to the same source, the illusion of separation fades, and the one sees itself everywhere. Between every pair of opposites lies a silent center, a still point where duality dissolves into unity. The Hermetic masters called this the middle path, the seat of equilibrium. It is not found by clinging to light or fleeing from shadow, but by standing where both embrace each other in peace. In this sacred center, the dance of polarity slows. Hot and cold, rise and fall, joy and sorrow, all reveal themselves as movements of one eternal pulse. The wise do not seek to escape these motions. They learn to rest within them. They discover that true balance is not the absence of motion, but the awareness that remains untouched by it. The Taoists spoke of this same mystery in the language of yin and yang, two halves of the same circle, eternally chasing and completing one another. Where the two meet, there is harmony. Where they are seen as separate, suffering begins. The Hermetic tradition echoes this truth. Polarity exists so that unity may know itself through contrast. To walk the middle path is to hold paradox without fear. It is to understand that good and evil, pleasure and pain, are not enemies, but instruments of awareness. When you no longer prefer one over the other, both become teachers. The pendulum still moves, but you no longer swing with it. You become the axis, calm, clear, unshaken. From this center, compassion naturally arises. For when you see unity beneath division, you no longer judge the play of opposites. You bless it. You realize that even conflict is love in disguise, seeking reunion with its forgotten self. The middle path does not lead away from the world. It leads deeper into it, to that quiet space where everything breathes together, and all opposites fade into the same divine hum. In that silence you remember, the one never divided. It only appeared as two, so that it might finally recognize itself as infinite. At the end of all seeking, when the opposites have danced their eternal dance, a quiet dawn arises within. In that dawn, the Hermetic secret is revealed. Polarity was never a chain to escape, but a crucible for transformation. Every contrast, every struggle, every oscillation was the soul refining itself through experience. turning density into clarity, ignorance into knowing, fear into love. This is the true alchemy, the transmutation of division into wholeness, of duality into divinity. When awareness no longer identifies with either pole, the pendulum slows. What once felt like conflict now feels like music, a harmony of opposites playing the song of creation. The heart becomes the still flame between shadow and light, burning without consuming, illuminating without dividing. And in that stillness, something eternal awakens, a remembrance that you were never one side of the spectrum, but the entire light itself. So breathe, and rest in the center of all things. For the principle of polarity was never meant to separate you from truth, but to guide you toward it, to teach you that the one discovers its infinite beauty only through the mirror of two.